Be nice to me.
Yeah.
I'm an emotional orchid. Be good to me.
Okay.
The ears of corn in Indiana have heard whispers of something strange, an event so haunting it has to break free from the confines of its field to the city of South Bend. Blood in the Cornfields and Crude Cinema present Cult of Blood. Join us for the first ever Midwest screening of Cult of Blood by director and writer Robbie Lopez, starring Felisa Rose of Sleepaway Camp, Michael St. Michael from The Greasy Strangler, and Mikael Matson from Born to Raise Hell. A special performance by the legendary South Bend punk band Leatherface will be your introduction to the initiation of the century, followed by a hell-raising short film by David Boyer, Nap Time, Dearie, and a showcase of trailers for Tim Wolak's latest films Beware of Clowns and Princess Spooky. Mark your calendars, cellar dwellers, for Friday, September 27th at Lang Lab in South Bend, Indiana. The doors to hell open at 7 p.m., but the show of a lifetime begins at 8 p.m. sharp. With your horror hosts, Marc and Ivy, to welcome you. Don't miss your chance to be initiated into the Cult of Blood!
All right, welcome in, cellar dwellers.
Hello!
How's everybody doing?
As you can see, we are in the flesh again.
Yes.
But we have a guest.
Absolutely, we have guest. We have a guest.
I am guest.
Guest, if you would like to, after your sip.
I can wait.
Okay. All right, if you'd want to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you.
I am Elijah Durnell, and I play in a band called Hypnagogia. And I do other things. I DJ and stuff, but yeah,
Sweet.
that's part of
Your DJ name is epic, though.
it. My DJ name is PlagueMD.
PlagueMD?
Plague Doctor.
Okay. Awesome.
I think that's genius. I love it.
DJ names are always so interesting.
Yeah, they are.
It really kind of so DJ names and drag names.
Exactly. There's almost like there's a connect there.
That could be my drag name, too.
Could you imagine? That'd be so cool. I'd love to see you in drag.
Yeah.
Next episode, you'll be in drag.
Yeah.
With Natasha Salad.
So much closer than you think.
Part two.
Part 2.
To be continued. Oh, so welcome. Thank you for joining us. We definitely are happy to have you with us here
Absolutely.
for sure. Do you have any new little?
So as far as new
Little
things,
tinies,
the only thing I have is just, just watching out for Beetlejuice as soon as it comes out.
There's so much Beetlejuice merch out there right now. It's literally as if the world fucking threw up Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Shit.
Okay,
Everywhere.
here's
like
the
you
thing.
could go to even Walmart and like just walking down the fucking aisle. Like kids stuff. You go to PetSmart. There's shit for your dog.
You know what?
It's everywhere.
I prefer more dog shit.
Dog shit, yeah.
I prefer more kid stuff so Casper can wear it year round.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm a goth mama. We're going to be having this stuff. This is not just Halloween stuff. This is summer. This is fall. This better be like something he can wear all the time.
Yeah.
So like, I'm okay with that. But goddamn, we were having this conversation before you arrived, Mark. And it's just like, where were all these people that were on the hype train for fucking Beetlejuice when like we were in high school?
Yeah.
Where were you when you used to make fun of us?
Mocked relentlessly.
Yeah.
Yes.
For being Lydia Dietz. And now y'all want to be fucking Wednesday Addams and Lydia Dietz.
Yes.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I definitely think Jenna Ortega made things worse. Her getting on brought all of her Wednesday like momentum with it, and I think that like helped throw up into the ether Beetlejuice stuff. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Well, but she's a mega ass star right now.
You've also seen like Hot Topic like jump on that bandwagon and like get like all this merch from not just like IPs like Killer Clowns and
which is
Beetlejuice.
Saturated enough.
Yeah, and also like anything Tim Burton. Like they just were like trying to grope in all those like little goth kids and like anybody else that was like darkly inclined, and they're just like they got adult money now.
Darkly inclined, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. But
way of life,
right?
Sorry, I just threw that out there and totally stole your thunder on what was new. But
it's
like,
really cool.
I know we were talking about Beetlejuice. I do it so often. Like she's used to it, but
Dude,
I have to remember to reel myself in.
I kind of like when you bulldoze. Because it's just like, you do all the talking for me. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yes. So
go up there and let them.
The other thing I was going to say is you're talking about Hot Topic. So I hadn't been in a Hot Topic in like fucking for years. And
I tried to avoid them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was Hot Topic when I was like younger.
Yeah.
Not a kid. Younger. And then there's Hot Topic now. And it's like not the same thing at all.
No, now it's all Disney shit. Sorry.
Yeah,
Excuse my
exactly,
Lego throwing.
The
sun was down here earlier.
Are you
get another shot? We saved it, Luke.
Awesome. Yes, I mean, where are you going to get interviewed where you find Legos on the floor and
I would have
screaming children?
I would have it no other way. You should qualify that.
True.
But yes, I would have it no other way.
Awesome.
But yeah, like you were saying, you went to a Hot Topic.
Yeah, so I went into a Hot Topic.
Tired.
Yeah.
Bada
bing.
So I went into a Hot Topic. I was at the mall. I forget what I was doing. I was getting like work appropriate shirts. I was being pretty.
Being a normie.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like walking by and I was like, oh, let's go into Hot Topic. And I, go in there and that's where I found the Tall Man Funko.
Oh, that's
cool. I was pretty excited about that. So I was like, all right, that's cool.
That's unique.
I started looking around at everything else and I'm just like, this is like, when did a fourth of the store become anime?
In Disney?
Or maybe even 40%. I was just like,
there's such a strong Disney contingent in our topic now that it causes
indigestion. Yeah.
So it causes a burning.
Hey,
inside
Pepto and black olives. That's what you need.
That's the cure.
So the Hot Topic.
Yeah.
Take that.
There's a reason why the goth kids in South Park wanted to burn down that damn place. They had to get rid of all the vampires.
That's right.
That's
right. Disintegration's the greatest album ever.
Yes. Damn.
Other than that, is there any other new stuff you need to fill in?
You had mentioned that you just saw Longlegs.
Oh, I did.
Oh, I saw Longlegs too. You have not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll try to mind my P's and Q's and just the description, but because you need to go see it yesterday.
So my main takeaway was like, all I really wanted to tell her is I need to see it again.
I could watch it probably 3 or 4 more times and be okay with it.
Yeah.
It's as I was telling you earlier, it's my favorite film of the year, horror or not. Like, I think it was so not what I expected. I even struggle to call it horror, really. Like, it's thriller, it has horror elements, it has procedural elements, like we were talking about before, but it was such a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
In story structure, in callbacks to horror tropes, but done in a unique way, which I appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Insane performances by Nicolas Cage. Like,
that man's nuts.
Yes, he is, but this is a whole new, different kind of nuts that I was not expecting.
Yeah.
I just recently watched what was the movie? It's called Badlands, where he gets his balls blown off. But it's not a horror film.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Nicolas Cage film. But
I know what you're talking about.
But going from that, him being quintessential Nicolas Cage, to this film was such a wide swing.
Ghostland?
Yes.
Because it had Bill Moseley as the cowboy with the white hat.
Yep.
Yeah, that's such an underrated movie. It doesn't get talked about enough.
It's a super, again, that movie as well calls back tropes from the genre in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
But Longlegs, my favorite of the year.
So the interrogation scene, the female lead, I don't know if you knew this, but they had not shown her or shown Nicolas Cage in his makeup. That's the first time she saw it. When she walked into the door, that was the first time she saw Nicolas Cage.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And her, like, so her reactions are, of course, she's acting, but there's a lot of truth in that because she had not seen him. And the transformation is you can't really tell that it's Nicolas Cage.
Well,
it's very hard.
It's difficult. And I was talking to somebody else about this. The way that so Nicolas Cage has a very specific way that he even holds himself.
Yep, like his mannerisms are very distinct.
And in this film, he doesn't even call back to those.
Yeah.
It's not even the like Nicolas Cage like over the topness or in vocal usage. Like it's just different. And so it was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah,
I went into it without expectation. Generally, I think things will suck, but I didn't.
So do I.
I didn't have an expectation, and it was a really pleasant surprise.
That's awesome.
I ended up essentially choosing Longlegs over Maxine.
Yeah,
because I went and saw Longlegs and kind of was like put Maxine to the wayside a little bit, which I didn't think I was going to do because I'd been waiting for Maxine. But I thought like I'll see Maxine or whatever. And then when I came around to see Maxine, it was out of theaters and stuff. So I was like, damn. Yeah. So I technically chose Longlegs over Maxine. So which is I would have thought I would have done.
The way more people are like describing it, I initially heard the movie being described as like Silence of the Lambs, which but the more I think about the more everybody's talking about it, sounds more like Exorcist 3. Where it's got this kind of creepy elements to it, but it's all kind of more procedural stuff. There's more of a detective story behind it.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Much more than the Silence of the Lambs comparison, because Silence of the Lambs feels much more like just a straightforward Law and Order almost. With a creepier background.
Right.
It's the supernatural element and the sort of religious callbacks in Longlegs in comparison to Exorcist 3 that have that parallel.
Yeah,
I think that's a
big reason I want to absolutely rewatch is to know that those elements of the film exist, because going into it, I didn't know that I was going to be experiencing that. Yeah. And I don't think my brain fully processed the details of it. Right. And that's why I want to go see it again with the mindset of like, I'm going to specifically look for this.
There are significant details that as they were happening, I'm like, oh, yeah, I would like to see the scene 10 minutes ago. Again.
Yes.
Right.
I kept thinking, can you shed more light on that? Can you shed more light on that? Can you shed more light on that?
I need to rewind that.
Yeah. And there has to be. Yeah. There has to be another one.
So that's why it's like rewatch value, you know?
Yes.
So
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a couple different directions I could think of just right off the top of my head that they could take a number 2.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I rarely say this, but I hope there is another one.
Yeah, I do too. I usually curse. Cool. Although my all-time favorite movie is
a sequel.
Yeah,
yours is a sequel.
So
totally get that.
So what was your introduction to like goth in general, like goth music and
the subculture
and everything, the subculture? Yeah,
I think I'm going to go way back.
Sure,
okay, go for it.
I'm old, so I could possibly
I'm going to go way back for me to Little Elijah.
Okay,
for the first time hearing the song "Stripped" by Depeche Mode.
Okay.
I was real little, and my dad was into music, and he just had it on. Literally, it was just playing somewhere. And I still can remember Little Elijah going, "What?
That's different." That? Yeah, that's different.
That's cool.
And so I sort of filed that away. I came up with a lot of musical different genres in my family and life or whatever, filed that away. Then later it came back. So Depeche Mode really is the band that gave me my little entryway into the dark arts.
Mm-hmm.
Depeche Mode for me when I was younger was the band that always formed like 2 statements in my mind. The first one was, wow, this is a really good song. I don't know who it is, but I really like it. Yeah. It was always a Depeche Mode song. Yeah. Yep. And then the second one was, wow, this is a really well-structured, well-written, well-timed, well-lyriced song. Yeah. It's Depeche Mode.
Right.
Yeah.
And though it was one of those 2 things, but it was always, because I grew up listening to metal, and I do enjoy, you know, obviously other genres, but like Depeche Mode was always that band that like I'd be over here 90% of the time and then I'd be over here 10 and I'd hear Depeche Mode and I'd be like, ooh, that stands out to me. Yeah. They always stood out to me. So I love that you said them, because I could say that they are always that one of the few influences that like would pull me away from metal. Yeah. That would always just be like, wow, you like think about songs different and catches and hooks and stuff. So yeah, I totally love that answer.
The song structure and lyrics were one of the first things that pulled me in as well, because I remember going through their discography and reading the lyrics before I listened to the songs. And that was sort of early in my introduction into that realm. And this is from Violator, the cover. So I have a deep-seated, we won't say obsession, because that's bad. But yeah, I've loved them a lot. And speaking of metal and Depeche Mode, if you've not heard it, Rammstein does an amazing cover of Stripped.
I've never heard it. I've actually seen Rammstein's the one band that like I would go see other bands and there's Rammstein. No. I've seen Rammstein like 5 times, but never with the intention of seeing Rammstein.
Which is crazy because their live show is like legendary.
And I was them and Guar.
Pyrotechnics.
Yeah, I've accidentally seen Guar twice. Oh, and they both are like cool. You know, very much theatrical looking, you know, presence on stage.
Oddly shoot things from phallic objects.
Yeah, accurate.
Yeah. Those are 2 of the bands that I've probably seen the most without a straight intention to see them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And of course, like, Rammstein is on the outskirts of what could be considered metal, but they're sort of like pop metal, but still.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, so this is a controversial question, but what does goth mean to you? What does it mean to you to be goth?
Yeah, that is we sort of off
camera, we talked about this because we have thoughts.
In the green room.
Yeah, in the green room. Exactly.
We're in the green room chewing the fat.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
This can mean a lot of, especially lately, sort of, we also touched on this with the Beetlejuice thing. This can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, especially lately.
Yeah.
We are so many generations now removed from the beginning of what we know as goth now, that it has become its own thing. Goth to me is a cousin, is a Venn diagram overlay with the punk ethos and the punk world. They're both DIY. They're both very there's a political beliefs and sort of like ethos behind both that are very similar.
Absolutely.
It's very
punk adjacent.
It's punk adjacent.
And there's a reason it's called post-punk.
Right.
It's right after the punk movement.
It's right after the punk movement. It's a lot of the same, even musical elements. But to answer the question without going down too many rabbit holes,
without being me,
there are lots of elements of what is goth. For me, there is a visual component that choices you make in your own personal presentation. And there's choices you make in musically. It's what is actually traditionally goth is such a very narrow thing musically. There's many goth adjacent things, but there's like a handful of bands that are at this point considered goth bands.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're listening to Christian Death 24/7, like you're probably listening to something goth adjacent.
Yeah, because like there's a few industrial bands that come to mind that are like goth adjacent, that are like, you know, kind of thrown into that.
Right. They're like the metal part of goth. So you think of like Typo Negative, Nine Inch Nails.
Even to me, like some Ministry, in my opinion, like
Ministry
is very much
Ministry
that.
has morphed so much over the years.
Yeah, Ministry's first album was a straightforward synth pop album, and then they became like what they are now.
Yeah,
even Gary Newman, for example,
one of
my all-time favorite artists, went from synth pop to now I would consider him more goth than he's ever been in terms of fucking lives in a castle. I mean, like
that guy. He's bow down.
So yes, for me, it's there are several sort of parallel elements. There's an ethos. There is a presentation that you are kind of, if you're going to call yourself goth, you're committing to some sort of visual representation to it.
Yeah.
And some sort of, it means to me, that you have a predilection towards a certain type of artistic element.
Yeah.
And it usually involves darker alternative music. It usually involves some manner of horror.
Yeah.
Some manner of like,
hence,
it's so funny to see how kind of like the images in the mainstream have perceived goth, because like I think back to the Saturday Night Live skits with Chris Kattan.
Yeah.
I fucking love those goth talk.
Talk with Azrael and with the
I can't remember.
I forget what it was, but that was some good shit. And then like we were talking about South Park, and it's kind of one of those things that like has been like the butt of jokes, but then has become vastly more popular. Yes,
right.
And it's like, where the hell was this? You were making fun of me.
I know.
Back in school.
It's like now a girl will be like, "I'm so goth." She's got a black tank top and like 2 arm tattoos. It's like,
get out of here.
We were having the conversation earlier as well that the phrase "my culture is not your costume."
Absolutely.
Like, it at this point, there is such a heavy visual element to it, there's a tendency for people to only latch onto certain aspects of it and then call themselves that. To me, it's like any genre though. If you just because you listen to Metallica sometimes doesn't mean you're a metalhead. Like,
it means you're a douchebag.
It means you're probably like,
dude.
Sorry,
Jesus.
did I say that out loud? My bad.
And that's just the same way. Like for us, when someone says, "I like Lucretia, my reflection." Okay, cool,
neat.
But like that doesn't make you that. You know, like that. Just call it what it is. So there is I think with any subculture, there's a certain, if you do the work to know the commitment that is, and the meaning behind it, that's part of it.
And I'll agree with that completely, because that's always been my biggest pet peeve, is that like, if you're going to call yourself goth, at least like understand the culture, I will always say it's a music-based subculture. Even though I understand that there is other elements to it, like we talked about, like, for example, you can have like more of the like the literature, so like Edgar Allan Poe, Lovecraft, anything along those lines that are kind of more darkly inclined. I think that's part of it too, but you really need to understand what goth comes from, why it's called this, why we, if you don't even need to dress this way.
No.
Yeah.
This is just a preference. Yes. And honestly, this is like, if you've ever seen the fucking memes that are out there, this is like 1% of what I ever look like. Otherwise,
of all goths, by the way. All goths.
All of them. It's like all of us. Normally, we all look like fucking gremlins in our like little pajamas and spiderweb pajamas and like maybe a band shirt. That's it. That's all we ever look like outside of here. Or hell, I wear my work clothes and you can't even fucking tell.
Yeah, it for me, like I think the closest that I dipped my toe into the goth pool for me was like in 8th grade. I was really pretty big into ministry, and then I feel like I floated over the goth pool and landed into black metal.
Yes,
and I was
which
like,
isn't a bad
and it was like
that's a normal progression.
To me, the thing that got me started was Cradle of Filth, Cruelty and the Beast. It came out in like 2000, 2001. That fucking album was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? And then that kind of spun off in a bunch of different directions. But that, like, I can pull it back to one album and one time, and that's what, like, made me jump. And that's, to me, where I kind of sit the most, is more like in the black metal genre of it. But it's cool because it's like, it bleeds in so many different directions.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of like, oh, I'm a cousin to you because like I'm over here, Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think a key point to make as well in this is that goth as a classification for someone shouldn't even, I don't think, come from, like, it feels counterintuitive to me to say I am a god.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
Like if you are what you are, leave that to someone else to say, "Oh, you look like you are."
That's how someone should
absolutely.
describe you or something like that. Yeah.
Or if, for example, if I make the music I make, if someone says, "Oh, that feels like it has some goth influences," or it feels like goth music. A key example of this is, excuse me, Robert Smith of the aforementioned Cure gets many questions about, "Oh, you're the godfather of goth." Like
Same with Susie.
Same with Susie.
Yep.
Robert Smith has said so many times,
I'm sure he's sick of it.
The Cure is not a goth band. We are not a goth band.
Yeah.
We don't say we're a goth band. If you think that, good.
Yeah.
Neat.
But that's not, we're not doing this saying
It's not their intention.
we're making goth music. This is just the music. This is what we want
This
to
is
make.
the genre.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said for that in general, because I think you and I were talking about how we run into, especially of late, issues of people saying, "I've got a Black Susie shirt on, so I must be."
Yeah, right.
And so
Cool.
and I listen to, Lil Peep, so I must be goth. And it's like, okay, what do you think that means exactly?
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
And so, yeah, once you start self-classifying, it's a whole other rabbit.
And I know
Yeah.
we'll get into this later, but it's like you don't want to be gatekeepy. You
Right.
want as many people as you can to understand subculture. That's neat. We want to welcome you in, but also don't claim you're something until you actually research this shit. Look into this. Become a part of the culture before you're just going to say, "I'm this."
And you're exactly right. I have no intention of gatekeeping it. Everyone gets into it at their various levels of interest,
Absolutely.
at their various levels of points where they start, all that, which is fantastic. Just, to me, it's just a matter of respect to, as those in the goth community call elders, the elder goths, just being respectful of the people that actually do give a fuck about those things that are involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
Just be respectful enough to acknowledge that, do a little bit of work of the history. The same goes for if I go to one suicidal black metal show and I'm like, this is amazing, this is all that I am. Well, no. It's just not.
Yeah.
You can love it,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you love it, but which I do, but I'm not going to classify myself as this thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what does your band name mean? And let's make sure that we pronounce it correctly. How is it pronounced?
Oh, well,
You said it at the beginning, but
oh, funny you should ask.
Yeah.
I pronounce it Hypnagogia.
Hypnagogia. Okay.
Hypnagogia. Okay.
The dictionary tells you can pronounce it two ways: Hypnagogia or Hypnagogia.
Okay.
I pronounce it Hypnagogia. Whenever you hear me talk about it, that's how it'll be. It means, it refers to, I'll say, the hypnagogic state is sort of like a semi-dream-like state, like right before you fall asleep. So that little time as you're dozing off, that oftentimes you wake up with a start, you feel like you're falling, or you're in sort of some sort of altered consciousness. That's considered the hypnagogic state. And so it's just a reference to that.
I always
That's
think I
cool.
hear shit. I think I hear a stick break.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I'm assuming that's what it is. Yeah, because it's just in that state.
Some of us are more messed up than others. I hear screams. So
Okay, all right.
for your sticks.
I don't know what it is with the sticks. Yeah, I don't know, but it is. It always sounds like a twig breaking. Maybe it's just my primal. I just need to go live in the woods.
I know mine's
side of me.
definitely the whole falling sensation. That's definitely been mine, and I know my poor son has experienced that. As even a wee baby, I just see the little, and I'm like, "Oh, it's okay, I got you. What's going on, bud?" Yeah. So,
it's just a reference to that.
That's really cool. I
Awesome.
like that. So this actually is kind of harken back to kind of what a lot of people have asked. So we did do a poll for users, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but this one just happens to kind of cover it. What are some of your influences? And what got you into goth music, and what attracts you, and what keeps you coming back? Why did you start what you've done with your band?
Let's see. Let's start with what initially. Depeche was an initial like musical influence.
Yeah.
I've always, oddly though, been very affected, inspired by visual elements in making music. So Depeche was the first and still is a big influence, but a lot of art, even actual gothic art,
Yeah.
I enjoy.
Yeah, right.
So I've always, from a very young age, been into that sort of thing. Oddly, as well, musically, from a very young age, I've listened to instrumental and like classical music, and I'm getting there. I promise that
It can be very.
No, you're good.
Very
You're good.
The structure of classical music is such a way that it influences the way I structure the music I make, because classical music often has very simplistic melody lines, many simplistic melody lines layered on each other. So it's like a violin playing a very simple line, cello playing a different, very simple line that goes together, and it feels very fully baked. That's also an element I definitely totally stole from Depeche Mode, but that has been an influence as well. But musically, in the dark alternative world, it's been Depeche Mode. It's been things like there's so many, like Clan of Zymox and
Oh God,
and
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
and like obviously New Order and The Cure and like those sort of like synth heavy elements. And then there's I will say initially like bands like more industrial leaning bands like Skinny Puppy and Nine Inch Nails were heavy influences. Gary Newman, again, I'll go back to him, has always been like, I'm a Gary Newman like disciple. Like, I think he's a great songwriter, makes great music. I love his stuff. I have always skewed a little more of the synth heavy goth end, whereas there are some that's sort of more, death rock, and that sort of thing that I personally don't make as
kind
much
of more
of,
on like punk elements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like for example, we mentioned like Christian Death or even Sisters of Mercy. They're very much more like rock bands that make dark music.
Right.
But yeah, part of that was necessity because I record and play and write everything myself. So
awesome.
It just happened.
How often does your band play?
As often as we can. But we play relatively regularly. We've sort of been on a little downward swell because I've been writing and recording a new album. More on that later.
I've been in a 20-year downward swell, so yeah, I understand.
Hypnagogia released an album last Halloween called Spectres, and we played a little mini tour around the Midwest, just a few dates. And, so yeah, we try to stay pretty active. Got a couple dates coming up in October in Chicago and Wisconsin.
Sweet.
So yeah, we try to be active.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you've had a couple of different members once or twice. Tell us a little bit about them.
Most recently, Chris Beachy has played guitar. He was on the last tour, and on the last probably last year or so he's been playing. He's always been involved on some level. For example, with this new album that I'm working on, he's been involved in sort of like listening, basically just an ear and sort of like a ghost producer on it, where he listen and sort of get some feedback and give me his 2 cents on things, which has been super helpful. But yeah, he's sort of stepping a little bit more away from the from the live aspect of things, but he's still involved in the creation bit. For the most part, it's been I've done most of the recording and playing and that sort of stuff.
Nice.
And is it just normally like guitar and like synth, and do you have drums, and are there other elements, other instruments involved?
I've sort of been reworking what the live setup looks like, but up till now it's been a various number of synths on stage and a guitar live. Usually we usually don't have a live drummer right now. We're kind of looking to add that.
Why? I've done so many different styles.
Sorry.
So many different styles.
He's a drummer, so automatically my first thought is...
I knew you were looking.
You're looking for a goth darkwave project. I've got one for you. But, so live, it's especially when it's me performing, I'll play synth and guitar live, and then we'll have, we usually don't have a live drummer, but and I do vocals.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Okay, so this is a question that like we were linked on, because this was one of the ones that I really wanted to ask you. So I'll just fire it away. So what is the goth scene like in Indiana?
Oh. Okay.
And then outside of that, where do like the goth people typically flock to?
Like, where do you find us out in the wild? You know?
Yeah.
Well,
just like Pokemon.
just flash.
Because I noticed you said
in the sky.
you were playing in Chicago and Wisconsin,
right?
And so I'm curious, does that mean that Indiana does not have a pronounced goth scene, or it's just...
I would say Indiana has a evolving goth scene.
Okay.
We're like Pokemon, we're evolving.
We're almost to it. We've almost evolved to it. Yeah, I don't know what it's evolving to be honest, because, again, because of the music, I'm not going... First of all, I'll say this. I am not going to say even that the music that I make, it is goth adjacent. It is... I don't make what I would consider traditionally goth music.
Yeah.
It's synth heavy. It's got, whatever.
You can dance to it.
You can dance to it a little bit. It's not what I would classify as goth. It's darkwave. It's like a lot of... It's post-punk. It's a lot of different elements. That being said, I do play a lot of in the goth scenes, and there's a growing goth scene in Indianapolis. There's a goth scene, a smaller one in sort of like the Bloomington area. There's a great monthly event in Bloomington.
I love Bloomington.
Yeah,
I lived there for a little bit.
Same.
I love Bloomington.
It's one of my favorite places in Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's an event called Gallo Dance. That's a monthly goth event down there.
That's so cute. And, Lebanon, Hanover.
Yeah, it's a great.
I like that.
Great band and great song. But actually, when we did our small Midwestern run of tour, we went with another darkwave band called Twice Dark.
I love them.
Right?
Oh my god, I've seen them like multiple times in concert.
Yes.
They're awesome.
And so Josh of Twice Dark puts on this monthly event in Bloomington, and he does a great job. It's great. We've played it once or twice. I've DJ'd a few times, so it's a great event. So here and in northern Indiana, I think we were talking about, this is sort of a little bit of a plug / please come out.
Please do it.
Plug away.
I work with a group. There's another sort of instrumental dark alternative performer called Freeze Etch, and he and I work together on this, and some other people that have come on board work on something called Cauldron Productions, and it's sort of a promotion.
We've definitely tried to, anytime that there's like a show, we try to promote it on our Instagram every time we get it in. And we have been doing some things in the South Bend area, primarily at Lang Lab.
We've sort of had a partnership
Lang
with
Lab's
them.
the place, man.
I was gonna say, is this in side question? Is this
sorry.
involved with the once a month thing that you were telling me about a
Yes,
little while
it sure
ago?
is.
Well, that's what I was getting to, yeah.
That's what. Okay, sorry to spoil it. Didn't mean to.
No.
But we were talking about it, but
yeah.
we've got so many things going that like I phonetically remember things, and then she's like my
Yeah,
technology.
I'm like his like secretary. I'm like, yeah, that's the one.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, we're starting actually this month. We're doing it's called Cauldron, Dark Alternative Night, where we're having Freeze Etch and I are going to be DJing the first one, but we're going to have a DJ every month. There's going to be a special menu of drinks at the bar, and it's sort of going to be like a goth lounge night.
And will it be at Lang Lab?
It's going to be at Lang
Awesome,
Lab.
awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to move it to a little cozy spot in the back by the bar. So we're going to have a little dance space, and we're going to have just a place to chill and be creepy.
We always need
every
a place
day,
to chill
every
and be
day.
creepy.
And so that and all that to get to, there's something happening that has not happened in this area since I've been here.
Yeah.
And which is unique. We can thank pop culture if we want, but it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like that now those creepy people like me who are in the woodwork now have a spot to go and be.
Yeah.
Creepy people, but in a safe manner.
Exactly.
And it's cool that it's once a month because, like, I'll be honest with you, the first one may not catch on, but then, we'll put it out, you put it out, people will start coming, and hopefully it can kind of build up and get bigger and bigger. So
yeah, the idea is to create a little bit of regularity with that event, and then Cauldron also puts on live shows with bands that come through of similar ilk, darkwave and that sort of thing. So
we had on our Instagram when Lorelai was there, and she does a great job.
She does a great job.
She was awesome.
We've had some great bands come through. We had like Carrie Lee, who opened for IMX on their tour, and we've had Snow Beast, and we've had a lot of great bands come through. And so keep your eyes open for the Lang Lab space and Cauldron events because they're happening pretty regularly, and it's a good experience. We usually have vendors out who are also doing dark arts. I mean that.
Tarot readings, yeah.
Yeah, they're actually doing all of those.
I was gonna say, I know that was happening the last time I was at one of the events, and that was very cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of vendors that sell art, that do readings of various kinds. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Sweet.
That's where I got these beautiful earrings from.
Yes.
Plug.
Sweet.
Zombie babies.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I love that artist. He's so cool. Okay, so before we get into this last question, we're gonna ask you some questions from our viewers.
Okay.
So.
Oh no.
Let's see here. We already, talked about artists that have influenced you and have inspired your music. But one of the next ones comes from our good friend, Steve Frito.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Oh, I love this. I already know who I'm picking. Okay. Who would win in a fight between Morrissey and Robert Smith?
Oh.
And he says, love your
To me,
music.
it's not even close.
Thanks, Steve. Well, I don't. This isn't fine. Robert Smith would win on every possible.
100%.
Because he defeated Barbra Streisand, and he is
Big neck.
all knowing and all powerful. Hot take: I am not going to crap on Morrissey as hard as some people will, because
would love for you to do.
Yes, people want me to crap on Morrissey. Yes, he's annoying, and he's said some stupid things, but he also is like a core memory for me.
Yeah.
Like, the Smiths wrote some insane music. Johnny Marr is still one of my favorite musicians of all time. So, but Robert Smith is like God tier. So
Absolutely.
He's going to win.
All right. So our next question is also from Steve as well, but I like the question.
Oh no.
Also, both those men are 65 years old. Will you still be making music at that age?
Oh well, I've said this so many times to so many people. I can't not. I've tried to not.
Yeah.
And I can't not. That's a purposeful use of a double negative. I will have to in some capacity because my brain will explode. And some people might prefer that, and I could record it and sample it maybe. But
yeah.
I have to.
You know, that's the thing though with artists. We talk literally. Tim Wallach said the exact same thing. The director we interviewed.
Yeah.
He said if he does not get his ideas out on paper or some sort of like medium because he's a film director, his brain feels like it's literally going to explode because it takes up 95% of your memory if you do not jot this thing down.
That is not even a joke. Like, it becomes all consuming. It's
you
like
become
an itch that
obsessive.
you can't scratch. And
yeah. I mean, I'm just a writer and I write scripts, and there's times where like I'm bored as fuck at work and I'll get an idea and I'm like, I gotta write this whole script out right now, otherwise I'm gonna lose it, or it's just gonna become my obsession for weeks or months.
And I am less afraid now. I used to be very afraid of losing an idea. I used to be very afraid of something would come to me and I would have to find something right then to get it down, or I was afraid it was going to go. The liberating thing about art to me, oh man, this is going to sound real pretentious.
Go for it.
Is that it never runs out. Like, so my writing process is a weird one. I often write instrumental tracks forever. I write a bunch of instrumental tracks until I never want to play another instrument ever in my whole life. And then I'm like, I want to write lyrics forever. I just want to write lyrics. And I write and write and write, and I'm like, fuck my feelings. I don't want to ever do this again. And then I sit down and sort of put those things together. And then by that time, I'm ready to go be like, oh, you know what? I have this like melody that I want to mess with. So, but it never, and initially I'm like, well, what if that's, and in my experience, it just doesn't stop. Like, it just keeps happening. And so I've become less afraid of losing it, but I can't, it just doesn't stop. And it becomes like that director you mentioned, like it becomes something that I have to do, which sounds more unpleasant than I meant it to sound. It doesn't like it makes it sound like it's a burden. It isn't.
It's just something. It's something in your brain you can't turn off and you can't fully control.
Right. And it changes everything about. By the way, it changes everything about how you consume media.
Yeah.
For me, at least. For example, I can't listen to music without trying to take something away from it.
That makes sense.
It's hard to listen. For example, that's why I have this hidden, no, not so hidden because I'm saying it on the podcast, this hidden wing of myself that loves some classical music because I feel like a sense of relief listening to it because I'm like, I can't make this. There's nothing I can take from it. So I just want to sit in it and enjoy it. Yeah. That was a long, stupid rabbit hole answer to say.
That was a great one.
That's what we go for.
For sure.
That's what we go for.
So this next one, Liam from the Globe was the one that asked, about the influences, what influenced your music. But so did Bill. He is actually Bill Gill. He's a good friend of ours. He's also a co-worker of mine at the funeral home. And he had kind of a similar question as well, but kind of added a little bit to it. What were your earliest influence of getting into the scene? For example, he was in the Detroit scene for the longest time when there was a big one back in the 90s. Where did you kind of get your start into the scene?
That's the tricky thing, being from this area. Like, being from Indiana,
Right.
like northern Indiana, where I'm originally from. There, like I'm telling you about sort of the growing scene that's just now sort of in its infancy now. When I was into this, there was just random weirdos. Like it wasn't about
you just got together in a basement,
right? It wasn't about scenes. It was about you knew some people and you hung out and listened to music you all liked and dressed the way you dressed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about that. Like it wasn't about a dance night with 300 people packing a club.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like I've been to those and those are amazing.
Right. You're with so many like-minded people at that point,
It's killer. And I would have loved to have that when that was happening. But to answer the question, getting into a scene didn't happen until much, much later in my life when I had played in some other bands of styles of music that wasn't my own. It wasn't my music. I was just playing in the bands, and there wasn't really feeling it.
Yeah.
And then I finally started making the music that I loved, sort of fully embraced the subculture that I loved and identified with for so long. And more so, like, was able to fully sort of, like, embrace that more. And it was only then, so it would have been the Indianapolis scene. It would have been Bloomington when it was starting to kick up a little bit. Going to Chicago and going to Nocturna and going to things that have been happening there for much longer than they've been happening here. That's the sort of the Midwestern kid version of the scene.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. I think the first time, like, I really knew that there was any sort of, like, fucking goth scene, you're gonna laugh at me, was the opening of Blade. Yeah, that was my introduction to, there's actual people that meet up, like, but they're not vampires. Gotcha. Right. They just pretend to be vampires.
Yeah. My only problem with that is they turn the ravey aspect up just a little bit too much for my liking.
The other one I know of, like, even as, like, a kid growing up, because this would have been, like, in my middle school years. Again, laugh if you want to. The one episode of fucking Big Bang Theory when they go to a goth club and try to hook up with the goth chicks, and I'm like, there's a club for that? Well, that would be cool. I wish I could go to one of those, you know? And it's like, and, you know, of course, you know, it's like the subpar version of, like, this is what the goth club is like, and it's whatever you want it to be. Yeah. And then I think also another reference to it would have been, like, the Sookie Stackhouse books, like True Blood. Yeah. Kind of had, like, a goth scene as well in it. So it's like different things are seeped in your subculture, but, like, literally nothing has, like, an accurate depiction of what it's like.
No. Because the accurate depiction is more, to me, in my opinion, more interesting because it's often like what you described. Mm-hmm. No one, I can safely say, no one is in full goth 24/7 in terms of their appearance. Yeah. No one is only this. No human being is only one thing, obviously. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say even the music I make, I don't classify as only goth. It's just, but this subculture is close to my heart, and I resonate with it a great deal. Those little things when you're coming up and you are looking for something that resonates with you, you pick out those little things of, like, wait, that makes me think that there's other people, other places that think like this. Yeah. And then that leads to nerds like me who go to the library and look up, you know, things about those subcultures. Oh, look. The UK was on this a long time ago.
Yeah. They had their shit together.
Yeah.
All right, so the last couple bits of our questions are actually quite extensive, but they come from mostly one person. Young Emily, our very wonderful intern who had lots of fun things to say before. Good. I'm going to let you go ahead. And
sure, so have you ever thought it was a phase, and have you ever been ashamed of identifying as goth?
Well, because I never considered it a phase because it was always, I didn't do it, how do I say this? sort of in the same description of how I said Robert Smith described The Cure.
Mm-hmm.
I never was like, I am this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I can't be this thing.
You never had to attach to the label.
Right. The label attached to me.
Yeah.
As
and that's how you know you truly are
right.
what the label is.
I mean, it doesn't hurt that I look like Lurch, but like it just happened to fit that, oh, Herman Munster's here. He must be goth.
Yeah.
But so, yes. So, no, I never really considered it a phase. I do remember playing a song that I wrote for my mother, a recording of it. And she listened to it through, and it ended, and there was a beat before she said, "Are you okay?"
I think my
That's
mom
funny.
has seen me play once, and there was just no conversation. There's no conversation to be had.
And I was like, "It's okay, I'm fine." This is your fault, by the way.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I never really considered it a phase or not a phase. I mean, people are perpetually evolving throughout their lifetime, so phases and not phases, I don't really think in that way. But I forgot the other part.
Oh yeah. Have you ever been ashamed of identifying
Like
as
ashamed of it.
or dressing a certain way or whatever?
Ashamed, no. Aware of, and like there's sometimes, again, depending on where you are, I live in sort of a rural part of Indiana. And so when you go to, like I want to do after show, when I go to Speedway for a snack at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
on the way home from a show, and I look like actual death walking into their establishment, and fellow behind the counter has something to say, or whoever, like you have to be aware that you're presenting a way. And the thing is that I think this is sort of an agreement amongst most people who identify in this culture. You're not doing it for those people.
Yeah.
You're doing it because it's how you want to feel.
Inward and outward expression.
And this is your outward expression of how you feel, but you have to also be aware that you are being perceived.
Right, exactly.
And so there is no shame in that, but there is...
There's like a social cue to it. Like certain social situations call for certain social things.
Exactly. Like there are times, I'm sure you've experienced this as well, random places people will just take your picture because you look away.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you look weird. Let me take your picture. And that's an odd thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not and so it's never, and obviously I've been mocked, I've been bullied, I've been all of those things growing up. That's almost like I didn't even mention it because it goes without saying kind of in this world. Like you just get that. But it's never been like I've never felt like, oh, I need to go put on my Colts jersey now. Like it's never felt.
And I think also too, as the years have gone by, because like I was in the metal scene, which very much, was equally obscure, just in a different direction.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're talking about and stuff like that. Like the bullying thing, I didn't really experience much because
kind of the same way I was.
I handle shit, and people don't tend to fuck with me.
Well, you were also
not saying
friends with everybody, weren't you?
I was, yeah. So I was a little bit of everyone, but like my town was small enough, and I had brothers before me, and so they kind of set the tone. But I did see a lot of other people that would get bullied, and I was definitely one to like go and support them and stuff like that. So, but what I was trying to say is back then when, like early 2000s, the way that people were, and especially in this area, it was not very progressive. Mm-hmm. and how they've kind of changed.
It's a kind way of
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was trying to think of the nicest way to say it, but yeah, insanely judgmental.
Yes.
And to me, I think a lot of it in this area in Goshen specifically, and I'll speak from my personal experiences, is I think a lot of the judgmentalness came and stemmed around religion.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I noticed that a lot of the most religious places were the most judgmental. And I experienced that because my band would play with Christian bands and would play at like Christian venues. And I had some bands that like had some values like that. And I had some bands that absolutely didn't have value like that. And so I kind of had all aspects of it. But that was one thing that I had noticed then. And then in comparison to now, like when you walk downtown Goshen at like a First Friday, it's like, it's night and day.
Yeah.
From how it used to be. So I think that's something else that factors into this whole equation and how people, interpret people back then and how they interpret them now.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. For example, you bring up the religious aspect, which in most places in the world is not as fine a point as it is in this place in the world, because in a not metro area in Indiana,
Yeah.
religion is a thing. I don't practice a Christian religion.
Mhm.
Like I have other beliefs that are. I have stickers on my car that reference other things that I practice, and that on top of I present, on top of the music I listen that you can hear from my car when I'm going down the road, in terms of it has resulted in so many things. So because of that religious aspect, people will look at the pentacle on the back of my car.
I can't help but laugh.
They'll look at the pentacle on my car and it will be, how do I say this? A very typical minivan behind me that sees that and looks like I'm going to take their soul. Or there will be another, like just recently, someone was behind me and I looked in my rear view and they literally like got my attention in the rear view mirror and was like they were like,
oh, that's
so
cool.
happy. They saw what I was there. And so there are, again, those little avenues of people looking for that sort of outlets that aren't what is typical, but the religious aspect does play, again, not in feeling ashamed of who you are or what you believe, but it is something to be aware of, because I'm sure we don't need to get political on this particular show. But it is this is a weird time. And so people get away about things real fast.
Yeah.
And for me, if you're not willing to have a conversation about anything, I'm done. And it seems like we're in a time where not many people are ready to have a conversation about
this. And to me, and it's funny because I was in rant mode like this morning.
Oh.
Because we don't keep it political, and I think there are so many things that need to not be political nowadays.
Absolutely.
Because I think as humans, as society, I'm almost from an old hippie aspect that I love everybody. I think that if you get to know somebody, and you break past facades and stereotypes and preconceived notions and stuff, and you get to know the person, there's things that you will find in every single human. You will find parallels, commonalities. Yeah. And I think that as humans, we've gotten away from that, and it makes me so sad. Because, like, I hate when someone says, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm whatever. To me, like, I hate those labels so much. I want it to be like, I'm a human that voted for this person, but I'd love to hear your opinion on why you voted for that person. Right. That's something I would love to hear more as far as, like, even political goes. But when it comes down to it, and I know that you agree with this, we're just about loving and respecting everyone.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter where you're from, what you look like, anything. And it's part of this podcast and why I think we're so diverse.
Yeah.
I just think there needs to be more of that in the world. There needs to be way more love. And I think there's so much division and hatred and resentment, and it just drives me up the fucking wall, and I just want to slap the shit out of everyone because it's annoying. It's fucking annoying. It's like we are splitting each other up. We're dividing what we are as human beings, and we're hating the things that are different when it should be the opposite. Those should be things that should be celebrated. Things that like, wow, you're different in that aspect. I want to get to know because maybe I'm different in that aspect. I just haven't discovered that in myself yet. I wanted to rant about this because it's something that's been really egging me on. And I just like hear all this political fucking horse shit. And I'm just like, fuck all of that. If we were to be nice to each other, love each other, respect each other, listen to opinions, and agree to disagree if need be, but that's the worst it gets.
Absolutely.
You know? Sorry. That was my rant, because I've been holding this in for a while. And it just fucking pisses me off.
Here's the thing. Whenever you rant, it's always the most beautiful, eloquently thing that I could ever, like, I can't even write this shit down. You just said it. It's beautiful.
The human experience is universal, and we have lost the ability to empathize with someone as a fellow human being only as an adversary or someone who agrees with our perspective. Social media has been a problem for that because we have devolved, I'll say, into bumper sticker politics and bumper sticker religion and bumper sticker all of these things. We've devolved into echo chambers and absolutely dismissing and canceling contrary opinions to yours when they're not intrinsically. Now obviously that doesn't go for things that are intrinsically harmful to other people, but if you have a different opinion, there is a reasonable way to have a conversation. There is a way to show basic human empathy towards their perspective, because even if it's different from yours, even if it's hateful compared to yours, there's a reason they're coming from that perspective. They're coming from a place of fear or whatever it may be. It is not my place to make that judgment. We need to have an ability as humans, as entities sharing a space, to share our opinion from where we are without feeling like we will be completely dismissed by the people around us. Again, rant over.
I think it's also because, you have a lot of like the hiding behind screens thing. For some reason, that gives people power. If you can't see me.
Well, that's what it is. It's because there's no immediate consequences. It's basic, human intelligence, human discipline. When you discipline your child, you have to discipline them in the moment. Otherwise, they don't understand what they're being disciplined for. It's the same type of thing. You're not held in check instantly, so you don't give a shit. You think you can get away with it. And then you're going to go further down that road next time because you were never put in check. So, again, my rant's over, but I just think that, I'll say it again, love people, understand, try to get to know where someone's coming from. You never know if their aunt died, if their aunt is going to die tomorrow. You don't know if yours is. That's just ridiculous.
I think there's something to be said about the fact that people often, social media is part of this, and I think it has perpetuated this even in interactions. People speak and don't listen, but just wait to speak again. And I think that has created, social media has helped in this, created sort of like a self-centered view that you need to hear me. My view is the view.
It's more important than me hearing you.
You need to hear this now. This is all you need to hear.
It's a form of self-gratification too.
It definitely is. And I think the screen, like you said, has gone a long way in making people feel like they don't have any. So what it happens in that case is the bumper sticker politics, for example, as I explain it. You say a thing, and you have no reason, or there's no necessity for you to even back up your own logic that you said. For example, you said you're not perpetuating violence, but if it comes to your door, it should be
handled. Yeah.
And part of that is, if I'm sitting here talking to you and I say something that you disagree with, you will say, I disagree, and this is why. That means I have to come back to you and say, well, this is why I have this opinion.
Yeah.
In the current
And it's
climate,
positive. You're engaging in
right.
constructive conversation. As long as both parties are being respectful.
Exactly.
Which,
Right, exactly.
I would be, absolutely respectful. But yeah, I agree. I like that.
In the current climate, some people, I'm not saying everyone, but it seems like more and more frequently people are getting offended by the fact you're making them explain their perspective.
Yeah.
They're offended that how could you question that?
Yeah.
Why are you making me say why I feel this way? Because the fact is, I just read a study or heard about a study. The majority of political opinion and sort of worldview opinion now is being less and less influenced by reading and more influenced by visuals, memes, seeing something and saying, well, this gives me this vibe, so this is what I think. Well, why do you think that? Why do you think that's the reason, that thing? And at this point, there's fewer and fewer resources to read that, to educate yourself on what your opinion even is.
Yeah.
You can have your opinion, and this even goes back to or early in this conversation about goth culture.
Yeah.
You can say you're a goth, but why are you saying you're a goth?
Yeah.
Are you saying that because you wear black lipstick? Are you saying that because you like Sisters of Mercy? Or are you saying that because you feel a connection to the punk, post-punk, goth ethos of, community, of this, all of the political and that sort of, do you feel a connection to that?
Yeah.
Or are you just saying that because you like to dress like a witch once a month?
And you want to feel accepted.
That's funny.
Either way, like, if you like to do that, that's cool, but just know when you're making this claim, you're claiming all of this other territory that you don't know about.
Yeah. It's like you watch Hocus Pocus once and all of a sudden you're a witch.
Right. Yes. Yes. And if you'll notice, most of the people who actually understand those things don't make a big deal about it.
Or they don't even dress that way. Let's be legit.
They don't do those things. And so if you love this aesthetic, just say, you know what? I love the goth aesthetic.
This is really pretty. I want this for my house.
Yes. Go.
Very cool.
Cool. Go put your creepy baby head in your house. Awesome. That doesn't make you goth. So, or that doesn't make you punk if you listen to Green Day every month, or that doesn't make you like.
You just so happen to like Black Flag or something else.
Yes. Like it goes like, just because you like War Pigs doesn't mean that you're metalhead. Like it just doesn't. It doesn't work that way. And you were right in saying that the subculture is hugely influenced by music. Music has played a huge role in expressing political points of view. Before we were shouting each other on social media, people were making their points of view known via the art, via the music, via the visuals, via the music, all of those things. So yes, all of that can circle back to that. And I agree that conversation has been wanting for a long time. And that can be frustrating, but I think establishing that sort of community that we're talking about, whatever the subculture is, saying that this community is growing around here even, that allows people who felt marginalized for a very long time, felt like their opinion wasn't one that would be heard, a place to go and make their opinions heard. Every goth person doesn't have the same opinion.
Yeah.
And every goth person doesn't dress the same.
Every goth person doesn't dress the same. Every goth person doesn't listen to the same music, doesn't whatever, wear the same brand eyeliner.
Right. I have an awesome friend. We've had him on the show many times, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Very goth. He is like the most goth person I know, but doesn't dress it.
Yeah.
He doesn't wear the lipstick. He doesn't wear the eyeliner. He doesn't hardly ever wears black.
Yeah.
But he is the most goth person I know.
Yes.
Because of just the understanding he has and the love of the music and just the camp aspect of parts of the goth subculture. Yeah. I would call him like even more goth than I am.
Yeah.
Like he just knows his shit.
Side note, that's a fun thing a lot of people don't bring up about goth subculture is the camp. The camp is
so much camp.
That's
why our eyeliner is as wide as our face.
Yes, the wings go to the ears and it's that part of it is a big, and it's a reference to, again, because media plays a big part of goth. It's a reference to all of that old, all the visuals and the media and stuff that we're referencing, but. All that notwithstanding, that's true. I would much prefer someone like that who has an actual understanding of. For a long time, that was me. For example, I was not in a place where I could as often as I would like, outwardly present in a way that you would be like, oh, that's a goth guy, or that's a fucking lurch, or whatever. But it was for me. It starts with. Understanding of the ethos, and I think you're doing any subculture a disservice by not at least exploring it.
Yeah, trying to understand it,
Absolutely.
Getting to know it. Yeah,
I think those are really good points to give to anybody wanting to even remotely become part of the goth subculture. Yeah. You even remotely want to explore this world. Do exactly that. We call them baby bats for reasons. And you can be a baby bat any stage of your life. You could be a baby bat now, you're my age, or you could be a baby bat your age. Yeah. You could be literally a child and you're just learning about this. Yeah. Cool. That's where you're at, and you'll eventually get to where, I'm not going to even say we're superior or anything, but we have just our different times where we're learning these things, we're discovering these things. You don't particularly become an elder goth until you reach this nirvana or anything like that. It just happens,
There's no test you take for it.
No, exactly.
I think from my experience in observation and in experience, the idea of an elder goth is more of even a resource than some sort of person who has some sort of encyclopedic knowledge of the goth subculture or music or art or books or whatever. It's literally someone who's willing to be like, okay, you want a playlist to get you up to date on like the basics of what you need to know about goth music. Here you go. Yeah. You want to know a good place to go buy some demonias. Here you go.
Yeah, right.
Like literally just a resource of like, if this is something you're down for, let's talk about it. Let's hang out. Let's do whatever. But it's not, again, there's no linear A to B line to baby back to full-grown goth.
Full-grown trad goth, that sort of shit. It's like, you say what you will about the different subcultures within the actual subculture, like, so controversial opinion, but like, for example, like pastel goth, you got new goth, you have Whimsigoth as this new, whatever the hell it's called, kind of more hippie side of it.
Yes.
You like that shit, fine. I have my own opinions. I won't express them here because I'm trying to be nice and not as gatekeepy because I'm trying to better myself as a person and be more open-minded.
Remember, love everyone. Be accepting of everyone.
That's why we're here.
Remember my rant.
My name is Ivy. I'm a bitch, but one may even say bitchcraft. But so like, I'm trying to like, open myself up. Like, if you like that shit, that's fine. That's cool. That's for you. Don't try to project that onto me or tell me that that's something I need to like. I don't need to like that. I don't need to accept that if I don't want to.
Yeah.
if you like it, keep that over there. Don't bring it near me. That's
Yes.
fine.
Yes, and that is, I think understanding that there are multiple entry points and exit points of a subculture is important, and understanding that when you get into a subculture and you're like, well, every person in every influence, every person in the subculture is like this seems to be a common way to dress. This seems to be the music. And then you get into it and you dress in pastel and listen to Shania Twain. It's hard to say that you're goth when you do that.
There's not too much goth about Shania Twain.
Yeah, I know.
She is the gothest of Canadian country singers.
She's Canadian. She's Canadian. That should disqualify you.
Side note, Canada has a really fucking great goth scene.
They do.
It's fucking rampant and awesome and beautiful.
Canada has a great goth scene. I mean, it's better than
many of the shit that's here.
Yes.
They're like a little mini Europe over there.
Yes,
yeah.
US is falling
I was going to say, is it maybe like the whole French Canadian aspect?
It could be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So, but yes, I'm just saying, again, not to be gatekeepy, but it's more about just understanding what you're getting into. It's like anything else. Like, if I say I want to go be a chef, and then I bring a computer to the kitchen and start doing accounting. Okay.
Are you being a chef?
I can't. I'm like, well, I'm being a chef. I'm in the kitchen. I'm doing work in the kitchen, so that makes me a chef. Well, no,
not exactly.
You're in the kitchen, but you're not a chef,
right?
And so
I'm typing out a recipe. That's not the same.
That's not the same. So yeah, I just think but that goes again. We're focusing on goth because I'm in black, but. That goes with most subcultures. That's like in musical subcultures and artistic and whatever. Like, you can't call yourself a sculptor and make chalk paintings. Like, it's just it just doesn't. It isn't. You can say you're goth, but unless you're exemplifying the things that are that, it's not gatekeepy to say you're just.
Yeah,
that's okay. You don't have to be. That's fun too. Still come to my shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but you
enjoy it. Come, let's teach
music.
you.
There's going to be a new album. You buy that one too.
So that brings us to a good point.
Does it?
Plug it.
Oh.
Plug away.
Oh, plug away.
Yes.
What to plug? So many things. There's an album out right now called Spectres. It was released last October on Halloween. It's
fitting.
It's on all of the streaming things. Go listen to it. You can go on Bandcamp and buy it. You can come to my shows and buy it.
Look at the camera.
Hi, camera.
Tell them.
Sorry, I was lost in my own thoughts.
No, it's okay.
Come to shows, buy CD.
Yes. Join us.
Come to show, buy merch.
Yeah.
And watch me yell in microphone. Yeah, so that album is coming out, is already out, but then, but wait, there's more. There's a new album that is finished, mixed, mastered, ready for release. It will be. This is a exclusive.
Got the exclusive.
This is the exclusive.
Exclusive here on this podcast. It will be released. That album is called Ritual, and will be released on the Day of the Dead, November 1st of this year.
Okay.
Righty.
Stay tuned to all of the Hypnagogia streaming or social medias and all that sort of stuff. There's going to be a single to come out before it.
Sweet.
Yeah, so that's coming out soon. There's going to be shows to follow. There's going to be the whole shebang with that. So I'm excited about the new music. I hope you listen to it. I hope you go listen to Spectres too, because it's. I think you should.
Good.
It is a good one. I will say I remember when it came out. It was very good. You performed it very well when you did.
Well, thank you. I'm a little biased, but.
All right.
So that's all I got. Wait.
There's more.
There's more. Yes.
Come to if you're in.
When is the first one?
August 29th.
Okay.
I said that aggressively and I didn't mean
No, say it
fine.
aggressively.
I do things
Say it with
aggressively and I don't realize it.
It's on August 29th. It's going to be a lot of fun. So come and hang out with us. DJ PlagueMD and Freeze Edge will be DJing. Paper Crane, sort of craft cocktail bar is going to be there.
Ooh.
Doing some absinthe drinks and all that sort of good stuff. It's gonna be a good time. The following, we're doing them the last Thursday of every month. So come to this one, and after this one, we're gonna release who's gonna be DJing the next month,
Okay.
and then we're gonna have some guest DJs come in, which we talked about. Twice Dark, I think
That's
is gonna
awesome.
come out for one of the nights and DJ. So it's gonna be a good time. We're gonna have a special Halloween one in October. There's a lot of good stuff.
Awesome.
So we're excited about that. Again, all the social media places will have all the things you need to know about that.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming
thank
out.
you.
Thank you for letting me ramble into your microphone.
No, this has been great. This has been fun. This has been
Very engaging conversation.
Absolutely. With that being
Awesome.
said,
Look out for each other and good night, cellar dwellers.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Very nice.